Phenomenology. A lot of you have been asking me about this recently, so I thought it was high time I made a video about this fascinating little corner of theory. If we've not met before, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and I've been supporting graduate students for the last 20 years. In that time, I have not met a single student who doesn't feel at least slightly intimidated by theory, especially theories that have long, elaborate names like phenomenology. If phenomenology boggles your brain, don't worry, because by the time you get to the end of this video, you're going to know what it is, where it came from, how it developed, and you're also going to know some very cool new words. So grab a coffee, grab a biscuit, and get ready to learn some fascinating stuff. So what is it? Well, essentially, phenomenology is a philosophical approach that explores how people make sense of the world around them. Phenomenologists generally believe that our own lived experiences form the core of our knowledge about the world. What we see, hear, feel, experience, that is the foundation upon which we build our knowledge of the social world. We're going to learn more about that later, but for now, let's take a look at where it comes from. Phenomenology stems from the work of Edmund Husserl, a German philosopher. It was further developed by Alfred Schutz, a student of Husserl. Whilst phenomenology originated in Europe with Husserl's work, it was developed in the USA by Alfred Schutz, who moved there in the 1930s. Let's take a look at Husserl first, and two things we can take from his work: intentional consciousness and essence. Husserl argued that people perceive many things every day through their senses, through seeing, hearing, touching, tasting and smelling. He said humans have intentional consciousness. He said our focus in our everyday life is on the things that are in front of us, the things that are right there in our environment. We purposefully direct our focus and our attention to what's around us. As such, we're only conscious of our own particular experiences. We're not conscious of the general reality that exists beyond that experience. According to Husserl, this isn't something that we can perceive. We only have what we can perceive with our own senses. According to Husserl, this is the lens through which we see the world. We can't hover above society getting a view from the top, because that's just not possible. So when we're looking at how human beings make sense of the world, this is what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the things that they experience in their everyday lives. Now, there's quite a lot that we experience as human beings, and we have to find ways to categorise that in our minds. Otherwise, we'd just be bombarded with this unintelligible array of stimuli. Noises, sounds, lights, odours, tastes, and it would just not make any sense. So in order to get past this assault on the senses that we experience in our everyday lives, we need to organise it as phenomena. We have to categorise things that have common characteristics into groups. As we're all perceiving things as individuals, we're never really sure whether other people are experiencing those things in the same way that we are. Whether they're hearing, seeing, touching or tasting it exactly the same way that we are. But we just need to accept that and put it to one side and focus on distinguishing one thing from another. To do this, Husserl said we should focus on the essence of phenomena. What Husserl means by this is that we need to identify the distinguishing features of things that we've assigned to the same category. For example, what are the distinguishing features of the things that we've assigned to the category coffee shop? We can buy coffee there. That coffee is made by a barista who uses a coffee machine. We exchange money for coffee and biscuits there. The coffee is served to us in a cup. The distinguishing features of the coffee shop are different from the distinguishing features of the clothes shop. In general, we can't get coffee in a clothes shop. There is no barista or coffee machine in a clothes shop. The essence of the coffee shop is different from the essence of the clothes shop. So there we have Husserl's contribution: intentional consciousness and essence. Next, we're going to learn about the man who picked up the baton from Husserl and developed phenomenology further, Alfred Schutz. Alfred Schutz was one of Husserl's students. He was born in 1899 and he studied law and social sciences in Vienna, Austria. He emigrated to the US in the 1930s. And Schutz, like Husserl, thought that everyday life was something really important to study as a social scientist. People's regular day in, day out experiences. These experiences, he believed, were what shaped how they made sense of the world and how they behaved. Schutz saw everyday life as a space in which meanings were made. We act in everyday life, and in turn, everyday life is affected by our actions. He said we operate not only within, but upon the world. Schutz argued that our reality is always a social one. Other people play roles in your world as you play roles in theirs. Alfred Schutz picked up where Husserl left off, and he took Husserl's ideas, which were quite philosophical and quite abstract, and he turned them into things that were more relatable and more applicable to social science. Whilst Husserl talked about phenomena and essence, Schutz talked about typifications. These are the concepts and the labels that are attached to things we experience. Car, laptop, coffee shop, manager, tree. These typifications are shared by everyone. Typifications also include kind of scripts about how we should behave in given situations and what is expected of us in particular circumstances. These typifications enable us to communicate with other people, and there's an underlying assumption that other people see the world in the same way that we do. We build up a library of these many typifications, and altogether they make up our common sense knowledge. So whilst we're all individuals experiencing and interpreting the world in our own ways, we need to have this common sense knowledge because it enables us to communicate and understand each other's behaviour, if only partly. So we go into the coffee shop and we ask the barista for an oat milk flat white. The barista says to us, drink in or take out, and we understand what that means. We can interpret and recognise what's going on here. We are both drawing on our library of common sense knowledge. The common sense knowledge that we draw upon is something that changes over time. We're born into a world where typifications already exist, but through our actions we shift and change them. New common sense knowledge is developed and adopted. Common sense knowledge around the use of technology is a really good example, especially when it comes to AI that's only just developed in recent years. So we are still building and developing our stock of common sense knowledge around this, and it's changing as time goes on. The one important thing to remember about common sense knowledge is what it does. It leads us to believe there is order, there is standardization, there are patterns in the world. Through the course of our interaction with each other, we create the illusion of order and structure. But in reality, that doesn't actually exist. According to Schutz, reality is one big, messy mix of individual experiences, and there is no order, there is no structure. We just think those things are there because of the common sense knowledge that we participate in. We can start to see this when we look at the different schemes of reference that people have. Take the barista in the coffee shop, for example. They know how the coffee machine works. They know how to use that coffee machine to make a cup of coffee. It's almost like second nature to them. They take it for granted. But what about when the coffee machine breaks down and the barista doesn't know how to fix it? They suddenly become acutely aware of how important it is. They call an engineer who is able to fix it because fixing coffee machines is part of their everyday reality. The engineer's scheme of reference is different from the barista's scheme of reference. What is relevant knowledge for the barista isn't relevant knowledge for the engineer, and vice versa. We all have different schemes of reference, like you watching this video. You're a student, possibly on a doctoral programme, so you're going to have that in common with other students who are watching this video. But the specific details of your here and now realities, your schemes of reference, are all going to be very different. How you take your coffee, whether you even drink coffee, the kind of foods that you like, the kind of hobbies you have, the time you get up in the morning, what your daily routine looks like. Your reality is like a unique patchwork quilt. You might have one piece that looks similar to a piece on someone else's patchwork quilt, but the rest of it won't be. So that is a very brief introduction to phenomenology. In the next video, I'm going to be exploring ethnomethodology, which essentially followed on from phenomenology. The work of Alfred Schutz was all incredibly interesting, but he didn't actually do any research studies to test them. His work was all rather theoretical, speculative, and philosophical. The ethnomethodologists actually applied phenomenological ideas in their research. And in that video, we're going to be looking at some of the slightly dodgy things that they did. So I'll see you then.